Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast. Well, 2 months ago, I did not think I would be saying these words. Derby County will be playing. I can't even say the words. That's how bad it's got. Derby County will be playing Championship football next season. It was a tense day. There were a bit of nerves in the air, especially from me early doors. But we got over the line and we had those fantastic scenes at the end. And to discuss yesterday and just put a bit of a recap on the season, I'm firstly joined by a man who never stopped believing. He never, ever stopped believing. I called him delusional at many points. It's Callum Boocock. Callum, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I think you even called me delusional from going on radio and stuff like that. So you even did it like nationwide, let alone podcast. But yeah, I'm good. I'm just glad that one the season's done, because I think my heart and my mental state needs a rest. So that's good. But also I just think, yeah, a season to forget in terms of on the pitch, but we now can look forward, and I think look forward well, because I think especially with what Eustace is doing and planning should be really, really good.
We're also joined by Rob Gregory, who whenever he comes on, the comments are always saying James Collins lookalike. Robert, have you had that one before?
I actually had it yesterday at the stadium. Someone, after maybe 3 or 4 Madris, walked past me. It's Callum! But no, I don't see it. I wish I played like him, but unfortunately not. Yeah, great to be on. Great to talk about yesterday, and thank goodness we're over the line. Another season in the Championship. I was not looking forward to another League One tour. I think that would have been a huge step back. So pleased we've got over the line.
And we were just saying before we came on air, Rob, that the last time that we were on a podcast together, we were plotting the points and deciding if we were going to stay up or not. At that time, Paul Warren was still in charge. The transfer window was still open. And we actually said we were going to finish on 51 points. So we weren't far out, were we?
No, I think we got it just about right. It was a lot harder looking back then, the way we were playing, trying to scrap the points together. But as it's happened, the change was made, and it's been, I'm not saying it was comfortable, because it certainly wasn't, but I was going into yesterday pretty optimistic. I think we were playing really well. It was in our hands. It was kind of in our destiny to stay up, and all credit goes to Mr. Eustace, really.
For sure. Callum, we were together yesterday morning. We decided to go for a pod breakfast. Now, Callum is the only man that I've ever seen who replaces everything on his plate with a sausage. He doesn't like bacon. He has a sausage. At one point, I thought he was going to actually trade his knife and fork for 2 sausages and eat it with that as well. Bizarre, very bizarre, Callum. I'm not going to ask you to explain that, but how were you feeling when you were eating your mountain of sausages yesterday? Confident, or was there that little bit of nervousness that we might do a typical Derby County?
Yeah, I mean, don't get that trending to be Sausage Gate, and but I think just to clarify, I only had 4 sausages. Jamie is jesting. I did have other things on my plate that make up a breakfast platter. But no, I mean, yeah, the morning it was very nervy. I won't lie. I think we were all kind of sat there looking around, going, looking through the different ramifications of results. Listening to obviously Dom on Radio Derby talking through the different results that have to go our way, and what Derby would have to do. I think the easiest thing what we knew is if Derby won, we were safe. So I think we just knew the plan that we had to do at Pride Park. But you know it's Derby County. You know it's never going to be easy. You know that the 90 minutes is going to change drastically. So I think it's. You know, we'll wait and see, and how, especially with how the breakfast was, and all of us were just still giggling and just waiting to travel and make the walk over to Pride Park on that heart. I think we were just kind of bit in the delusional world, because we were all there at 8:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning for a football match, and because 12:30 is always a bit awkward, and that's why I don't like awkward kickoff times.
Yeah, I mean, we maybe are a little bit delusional, and we've been delusional in the past as Derby fans. I mean, we weren't dressed in fancy dress like Stoke fans were, and there was a chance that they could have got relegated. Could you imagine that? There's Mario and Luigi crying in the away end because they've been relegated. But Rob, there was a point where I did get a little bit nervous during the game because Preston had scored, Hull were winning, and I think at that time Luton were drawing as well. A lot would have had to have gone against us, and we gave ourselves that opportunity. But was there a point during those 90 minutes that you got worried?
Yeah, I think we're all the same. We're all the scores on, right? It's not quite back in the day where maybe a bit older than you with the radio to the ear. It's a bit more technologically advanced these days, but you could see everyone knew the scores going around the ground, and all of a sudden it looked like we were getting dragged into it. But as we kind of knew, it needed a freak set of results. And even with those 3 in front at that time, or 2 in front and 1 drawing, that you felt there was still going to be a twist and a turn. Plus, it was in our fate. I was still pretty confident, to be honest, myself. But obviously, when those results are there, you start to look at the table and you think, how long we got? Can we get this done? And we'd not started brilliantly, I didn't think, either. So you were kind of, for 4 or 5 minutes, but then very quickly the West Brom game kind of kicked in and the nerves were settled at that point. I think, as Callum said, just because our fate was in our own hands, I always felt that maybe we would have gone and done what we needed to do anyway, had we needed to. Maybe that's just false hope or dumb support or whatever you want to say. But I had that in the locker as well, in my own kind of positivity bank. So I was never truly nervous, but yeah, those results didn't help for that short period of time.
I think, Callum, the thing that game needed probably yesterday was a goal to make it a little bit more interesting. We went close in the first half. Langas had 2 really good opportunities. I think if there's one man that we wanted on the score sheet, it was Langas, and he had 2 quite good opportunities. Really good ball in from Harrison Armstrong after a corner, which was expertly saved by their goalkeeper, and then he managed to get under one. That then obviously went over the bar. How good would it have been to see Langas on the score sheet, Cal?
Oh, massively. I think he's a testament to Derby County, what he put his body through the back end of the season. I mean, he was my pick on Friday evening to score the 96th minute winner to kind of get us I really, really wanted him to get on the score sheet, just especially this season. Obviously, I see him scoring plenty of goals from set pieces over the next a couple of years. Touch wood, he does stick with us, but yeah, especially this season, because I think he has gone through the pain barrier. You can see that, and I think he really deserves all the plaudits, because I think everyone looks at goal scorers, everyone looks at central midfielders running around, but I think and everyone was so impressed with Craig Forsyth and the way he finished off the season. But I think Langas kind of goes under the radar just because of if you think he's playing, obviously we don't know the extent of the injury, but it's got to be bad for him to sign himself off rather than the medical side. So, and he's going to have an immediate procedure straight after this season, probably next week. So, yeah, I think a goal for him would have just topped it off, but it wasn't to be. It was a great save, especially that first one from the Stoke goalkeeper. I think it was probably just written in the stars for it to be a 0-0, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was the best 0-0 that I've ever watched because of the situation. Obviously, Langas is part of this defence that's been so pivotal for picking up results, Rob. We may see Matt Clark again. We may see Nat Phillips again. If we're dreaming, we may see that. But just how impressive of those 3 being at the back for Derby in this running.
I think he said when he came in that he kind of wanted to build from the back, and not that we were shipping loads and loads of goals, but I think he came in and kind of set that up at the start. And you say that after that QPR game, I think you write that one off. Obviously, you've got to have a bit of learning there, but he started to improve gradually, and he did build it around those 3. And obviously, Fozzie coming into that, Kane Wilson as well. I think it's just been immense, really. And in terms of hopefully what we can get back to Derby and into the starting lineup, you'd have those 3 there. I mean, when you think Curtis Nelson probably wouldn't get into that back three at the moment. It's hard to believe that you would be saying that about somebody of that stature earlier in the season, but I'm not sure he would get in front of one of those three the way they've been performing at the moment. Nat Phillips particularly impressed me. I didn't really think a lot of him when he'd come into the side, but he's improved. I mean, he's a younger player, right? But he's improved a lot and really shone towards the end of the season. Not just his goal, but some of his defensive work, his passing. I think he's been coming on a lot. You've touched on Langas and Fozzie as well. I think needs a special mention. I think he goes under the radar. He's had plenty of plaudits, but it's unbelievable what he's done really over his time, and particularly his age, the injuries he's had for this season to pull it out. It'd be interesting to see whether he's there again next year to help us kick on.
And it's only taken, 20 years, but he's finally got a chant, Callum, Craig Forsyth. The fans want him to stay. I have to agree. He's been absolutely fantastic under Eustace. Again, putting in a really good performance yesterday. Answer the question.
Oh,
is it?
I
don't even need to ask the question.
No,
you know the question.
You don't. Yeah, I know the question. I think it was the question that Eustace was expecting straight away from Dom and from other reporters. I think, along with a couple of other players. But I think Craig Forsyth deserves another year, doesn't he? I think I wouldn't do any more than a year. I think that this will probably be his last extension, and I'd love him to complete his career not like to and fro with a relegation battle. I want him to be part of a proper rebuild, and he can go out on his own terms. So I would give him a year, and then he can at least provide any new signings, depending on who our centre-half signings are, left-back signings, which we desperately need. He can provide them well-earned experience and knowledge, and I think Eustace trusts him, which is the biggest thing. The relationship him and Eustace have as a duo, from player to manager, but also friends and colleagues from their past, it is massive, and you can tell that Eustace has the utmost respect for him, and we need leaders also going into next season. We're going to lose a few players, so another leader in the dressing room won't go amiss.
Yeah, for sure, and I think you can be forgiven the sentimental thing with Forsyth, because I think everyone will probably age 5 years when he eventually leaves Derby or decides to retire. I know I definitely will.
He needs a testimonial though, doesn't he?
He does.
He does. He needs another one.
I've been calling for this, but supposedly the player has to go to the club and request one. So it's on him to do. So yeah, maybe if anyone sees Craig Forsyth around, just make sure, tell him to have a proper testimonial. Let's get the band back together. Let's see the Derby legends maybe come back and play one more time at Pride Park. Rob, the immediate news we got yesterday was good news in the fact that Kane Wilson has had a deal triggered, so he will be signing on for another season. I think the club are trying to get that longer. Just how good was that to hear?
Yeah, really important. I think he's been tremendous. He had a real big shout for me for player of the season, to be honest. No, he's not been an ever-present, but in terms of impact, I'm not sure there is many that have made as much, particularly an attacking contribution. And his numbers aren't fantastic, but in terms of the positivity as on the pitch, I said to my brother watching yesterday that we haven't really got anybody like that just goes at people and actually turns the game the other way around. He'll always want to go past his player and move us forward up the pitch. And generally, he's got the quality to kind of actually make something happen as well. He's not just aimlessly running at people. He generally does kind of move the play, transition the play forward. So he's been so important. I don't think you can underestimate that. And I haven't always been his biggest fan. I wouldn't have said. I think I said last time I came on, actually, that I'm not sure he was an obvious starter, actually, between him, maybe and Joe Ward at the start of the season, and a few others that could have been in that position. But my goodness, he's straight in now, first on the team sheet. He's definitely got to be there. I'm really pleased that we've got that one done, and hopefully they can secure a long-term contract for him.
Yeah, there's obviously going to be a lot of outgoings, Cal. There's going to be some ingoings as well. We'll have future episodes and really take a deep dive into that. But it's definitely going to be quite a transformation for Derby County, and it probably would have been had we been relegated. John Eustace was saying yesterday that hard work starts on Monday. How hopeful are you that we get it right in the transfer market and we can rebuild a squad that are not going to be in this situation next season?
Well, I trust the coaching staff. I trust the coaching staff to have their own targets. I think when you look at what they've done at previous clubs, but also the short term with getting, yes, free agents, but also the clout of the free agents that we brought in. I mean, Kemar Roof to come in. You've got Jeff Hendrick, who was ex-Premier League, and yes, they're free transfers. They actually never really made a huge impact, but it's the names. It's they're happy to come in and support this season and support the coaching staff and come in and are happy to be part of this squad. So if we can do that with free transfers with the names that we did, you've got to then think positively for future transfers this summer and into January next season. So yeah, I think that, but also I think the club need to learn from their mistakes, and I think they will. I think that they've shown that they can't rely on solely data and people who maybe inexperienced in certain roles, and that's why they've brought in Bromby as head of recruitment, I think it is, to then obviously oversee the procedure this summer. So, and he's obviously got a wealth of football experience. Yes, his past at Huddersfield was 50-50, but he does have a black book of contacts, and I think it's one we need to tap into. He gets on with the coaching team also. He's good friends with them, so hopefully the club have put in a good circus of people to be able to actually, like you said, get some decent signings into next season.
And if you're a player, Rob, you're looking at Derby under Eustace, and it's the kind of club that you want to be a part of. I know that you put something in our chat earlier about the fact that had Eustace had the whole season, we would have finished on enough points to get in the playoffs. So there's something building here. There's going to be something building over the summer, and if we can get it right, there's definitely cause for optimism, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm definitely optimistic. I think I'm not sure whether this has been a bit of a freak championship season, and I don't really know how to quantify why I'm saying that. It just feels like there hasn't been the normal kind of fragmented way it is. No one's really come with a late charge. Those ones that the playoffs have been there all the way through, so it does feel like not the kind of normal topsy-turvy championship season, but I think the point's totally, the message I put in was that on Eustace's, since he's come in, we'd be on 69 points if you prorated his results, which would have got us into the playoffs this season. So when you think about, with no disrespect to our squad, it's limited. I mean, I'm not going to repeat Paul Warren's sugar on top, although I've just have. But I don't actually think that's true. I think there is, a level of quality in there, but let's just say it is limited. We've still kind of rebuilding from a position of weakness when we went down. And if you think that what Eustace has managed to achieve with that squad and with the injury problems that we've had at the back end of the season as well, to add to that, why shouldn't we be optimistic going into next season, even if we can deliver the squad that we've got now? And I believe that we can improve on what we've got. Like Callum's reeled off some names there, but with respect, they're brought in haste. Not that there's not the quality there, but with some time to actually bring in players that might be needed in certain positions as well, and a level of quality that Eustace can attract and bring in. I think we should be optimistic. Keep your feet on the floor, of course. There's no reason to expect that we'll get in the playoffs. That wasn't really my point, but we certainly shouldn't be going to next season fearing that we should be looking over our shoulders. I think we should be looking that we're a steady championship side, and anything more is a positive, really.
And there'll likely be a change in philosophy, in players, in tactics, but something that I saw on Twitter that Adam actually shared as well. Stuart Reed, who's at From the Wing on X, has basically broke down the set piece goals that we've conceded. We have conceded some, but that we scored from. So within those 12 games, 8 set piece goals scored, which is the second best in the league. From set pieces, the XG created is 5.75, which is first in the league. We're 7th when it comes to goals conceded, and then the XG for against is 3rd. So it's quite interesting. We're up there in respects to scoring, but we're also up there in terms of kind of conceding as well. How would you want to be reliant on set pieces as much as we have been this season, Cal? What's your thoughts on that?
No, I like to think that, especially, well, we want to be very interesting to see what Eustace does next season. Does he revert to type and go to his 4-2-3-1 more positive style that he did at his past clubs, or does he kind of stick and build to make the formation system he's built with this squad this season, or back end of the season, more positive? I don't know. So, but I think the over reliance on set pieces does need to be worked on. I think that I don't want to stop being really good at set pieces. I think at the end of the day, we need to keep building on. That is one thing from the previous regime we have carried forward. We did have with Matt Hamshaw a really good set piece, and we were very, very lethal from it, especially with the stature of the centre halves and the back line that we had. So I don't want to go away from that, and the new coaching staff have kind of carried that on. But like you said, I don't want to be over reliant on them. What we need more open play goals. We need more to our arsenal, and I think a lot of that is down to the personnel we have. I think at the end of the day, the team that we have this season, or sorry, just finished on the weekend, but the team that we've had, their main threat was set pieces. So I think moving forward, it'll be down to personnel coming in the door that will change that you mentioned.
For sure. Rob, we've got to talk about the atmosphere yesterday, and we've got to talk about the atmosphere all season. Every single interview, player, manager, whoever it is, they always compliment the fans sticking with them. There has been times this season where we probably doubted the team, but we've stuck behind them every step of the way. And how many points is that worth? I don't know. You can maybe answer that question, but quite amazing this season from fans to travel in the numbers that they have. Yesterday, like I say, it would have been good to get a goal because I think the roof probably would have come off Pride Park. But still, really good atmosphere, and the scenes at the end were special, weren't they?
Yeah, I think we kind of sing our own praises, and the ones down the road calls us attendance FC and all that stuff. But I think we are like a significant fan base. We do turn up through thick and thin. And, without going back and being too derogatory, it was pretty turgid, really. The back end towards Christmas, after Christmas, and that run leading up to Warren's departure, it was probably consistently the worst football I've seen at Derby. And not that there's the worst side, but it was really, really poor and hard to watch. We weren't creating anything. It was really quite negative football and really difficult as a fan to keep turning up. And I think the numbers were kind of slowly going in the wrong direction potentially for some of the midweek home games and all that kind of stuff. But generally, yeah, I think the core of the fan base stuck together even through that period, which takes some doing because, like I say, it was pretty tough to be turning up. Since Eustace has come in and since we've started to turn it around, yeah, I think it's made a huge difference. I think having lost his first 3 games, the fans could have easily taken a different stance. And I think keep going, keep supporting, keep picking them up and dragging them over the line. I think there's a lot to be said for that. As you've said, all the players pick up on it, the management pick up on it, and probably, I guess he played for us, I guess, as a localisation. I'd love to also think that one of the reasons he's back in charge and took that decision was because of the fans and because of how much we resonated with him as a player. And you can see that. I mean, again, no offence to Blackburn, he's not going to get that there. They don't turn up in the numbers that we do, and they haven't got the support base we do. So long may the Rams fan base drag us up that table, hopefully towards the glory land again soon.
Yeah, I just want to come in on that. I think if you look at the scenes with Eustace at the end and the South stand, I think we haven't had a manager do the bounce in 2.5 years since Lampard, but even that felt more special. And there's nothing against Lampard in the season that we had that season, but I think having a player a former player who's now a manager, especially a legend who retired at Derby County, to then be now manager and achieve what he's achieved, it's kind of just that nice poetic story that's kind of finished this season. Then going into the kind of the beyond of next season, you could see the rapport between fan and manager and fan and squads, which you thought like back at Christmas time that had gone. And some games were very, very toxic at Pride Park, and that's not what. Especially, you look at the other teams around us who've. I mean, one of them has gone down in Cardiff, and what was going on there with manager and squads, and the off the pitch stuff, and we were the complete opposite, and that's, I think, a contribution into why the support has been going on so well towards the back end of the season, and the squad were fed off that. Ibu Adams mentioned it in the interview that they were really nervous at some parts of the back end of the season, that they weren't going to be able to overturn it, but because of the fans and because of the support that John Eustace managed to galvanise, the squad managed to kind of take away the ability aspect of it and match teams and obviously go and get 3 points. And obviously we've seen what's happened.
Yeah, I found it really interesting that I think someone on Twitter put 2 videos together, and it was John Eustace scoring for Derby and going over to the South Stand, and then 10 years on, he's then there celebrating as well, which, like you said, Cal's quite poetic. Did I think he was going to do the bounce? I didn't know, but maybe he didn't want to, but he did it. He did it in the end. And yeah, look, all of us fans are so grateful for what he's done. I think the fact that he's quite a cool customer, and as we've said, he's quite straight bat, isn't he? In terms of interviews, he kind of gives the canned responses, doesn't give too much away. But when we can see the guard down a little bit, and we can see him, geeing up the fans, that's pretty special. Lots to be obviously optimistic for. Tortured Pickles in the chat on YouTube has said about getting in new players, and is that reliant on investment? Rob, you'd think that if there was investment in the pipeline, now they know where we're going to be, that potentially could come out in the next couple of weeks, months, something like that.
Yeah, I think you'd have to think the investment was pinned on whether we could stay in the division, and how Eustace was able to come in and turn it around. Maybe if not, if they could see that there's an immediate bounce back, maybe it was still there. But to that point, I think I said at the start of the show that staying in the division, that staying up is so important. I think going down this time would have almost been, I know we're in a worse position with the points deduction and administration, but I feel like this would have just been such a massive step back for the club in terms of, the financing of the club, but also just the going down and trying to rebuild a squad to get out of that division when we know how difficult it is to get out of it, whether we'd got out of it again first time. So yes, hopefully the money's there to come in now to try and support. There's investment to come in to try and support Eustace with what he wants to do. But I repeat the point that on a shoestring budget, with what we were able to put together this season, with the squad that he's been left with, we've still managed to produce a credible points total that would have us comfortably in the Championship, if not beyond. So I think he's got pulling power to bring people in that may not have come in previously. I think that's fair. I think that maybe you don't need to break the bank for all of these people to come in if they're older players, more experienced players on the way out that are looking for a club to kind of finish off at, or if there's some young blood that he's got in his network that wants to come in and get loans, that kind of thing. I just think that maybe we'll be okay whether investment happens or not. Obviously, if it happens, I think we've got reasonable structure above to make sure that we spend it quite wisely. So I'm pretty positive about the whole thing, really, and don't think it's necessarily pending on that for us to have a great squad going into next season.
Yeah, and obviously we've got a man at the helm that cares about Derby. He won't let what's happened previously happen again. Obviously, this time last year, we were watching David Clowes bring the trophy out and present it to Conor Hourihane. This year, in the stands, a little bit different, but I'm sure he'll be very relieved. How pleased are you for David Clowes as well? Because it now feels like the next chapter is the David Clowes, hopefully the era, and it's not a case of righting the wrongs, Callum.
Yeah, I mean, we're still now on track with the plan that he put in place when he took over the club. He wanted to get up to League One. We obviously didn't do it. League One, get up to the Championship from League One straight away. But we obviously did it on the second time of asking. We're now in the Championship, and we've managed to just about cement that position. So now it's about the next. I think this is probably the most important because now this is where we will see. And don't get me wrong, you can never question David Clowes' commitment to Derby County. Without him, we would not be here right now talking on this podcast, talking about a club. So I think you can never question that. But we will now see the level of investment that he's willing to put into this club and to get us, because Eustace came away from quite an unnerving position at Blackburn and didn't feel he had backing. He feels he does now with David Clowes and Stephen Pearce. So the writing will be on the wall back towards the start of the season with who we bring in and the level of player we bring in. So yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. I am really happy for David Clowes because I think a Derby fan, he probably wished he was in the stands back in his old season ticket seat in a packed out Pride Park. But I think he still would have enjoyed it up in the directors area and looking down at his club and a sold out Pride Park, seeing the boys over the line.
And we've obviously given Eustace plaudits, and one thing I wanted to mention, Rob, is his team as well, because it's not just John Eustace; it's the whole team effort here. You've obviously got very, very different in terms of, I guess, maybe what we had before. There's different setups; it's a lot different, but this team has managed to bring the best out of the players, and I think testament to that was Josh Vickers, who I felt potentially last season, or at points maybe even this season, if we'd have put him in, I would have felt a little bit nervous. But actually, I think over the course of the last couple, he's probably been one of our best players. The save he made yesterday from Al Hamadi was amazing. I guess it's testament, isn't it? Because you bring in these coaches, and they are able to get the best out of players that potentially 6 months ago you wouldn't have had too much confidence in.
Yeah, I think said at the start, huge credit to Eustace. That goes without saying that he's got a team behind him. It's not just him. I'm sure he'd be the first to say that, but I think they just deserve humongous credit for the pragmatism that they've shown. So I think they came in and would have loved to implement a system that they're familiar with and start getting players playing the way that they want them to, because that's just what they're familiar with and that's how they want to set a team up. But I think over those first couple of games, when you look back, the QPR one, then we start to slowly improve. I think all that they were doing was working out, this is a limited squad. Where are we strongest? Where are we weakest? What's good? What's bad? And how can we take this on and actually get the most amount of points? And that's a lot harder than it sounds, because they're not actually implementing what they want to do. And that's what's positive about the summer. They've now got time to, we could just see a totally different Derby side. I think my biggest criticism of Warren was that we didn't have a game plan. We didn't have a system or a process or a way of playing that the fans turned up and knew what they were going to get. It just very much felt a random course of events that the players were thrown out onto the pitch. And I think there was goodwill there. But other than that, I don't think anyone knew what was going to happen. I think what Eustace has done is taken the good bits of that, found what they are, uniformed them, and then got us over the line, which is just an amazing thing to see, and improve players along that process as well. To answer your question about Josh Vickers, I think we would have all been nervous if someone had said Josh Vickers has got to come in and keep goal for the last 4 games and we need this many points. So humongous credit to him to come in under those circumstances and perform how he's done. I think that comes with the cohesion of what Eustace has done, the way that we've been playing, and the way that all of the players are united in getting ourselves over the line. So I think he kind of is a euphemism of what's happened wider across the way that we've gone about ending this season. And yeah, he deserves credit individually, but probably sums up what we've done to get ourselves over the line towards the end, I would say.
And Cal, we're being quite hopeful. We're being quite optimistic. We're looking forward. Is there any fears right now? Is there any worry at all going into next season? Do you think, we might lose this player? Do you think the England job's going to come up for John Eustace and Tuchel's going to get sacked? I'm jesting about that one. But yeah, is there any worries in terms of going into next season? Or do you feel that we're going to be in a good place, be able to keep the staff and players and kind of invest in the right way?
No, you boys know we would not be good Derby fans if we did not have both hope and terrified fear in going into a season, because we never know what our club does. But I think, there's always that element, because I think there's still certain people within the club that were there when we haven't done well. There's also people in now who are new, who are really good and have proved that they are capable of certain roles and stuff. So your trust is always in other people. That's unfortunately the where we are as fans, and that's what we have to do. We go and support our club, no matter who are the custodians, no matter who's in the certain roles, no matter who is the manager, who's the players. So there's always an element of trepidation going into a season, but I do have a good feeling going into next season, and I'm not thinking a playoff run or anything like that. But I'm talking, in my opinion, I'm thinking like, yeah, let's go more positively next season. I'm looking forward to more the transformation on the pitch in terms of style, in terms of the level of player that we have been used to over the past 3 years. If you think the last 3 or 4 years we've been used to a certain level of player due to the division we were in, due to now obviously coming up from League One. Obviously being in admin, prior to admin, going through with all the academy, this is probably the first season in a good few years where we are going to have an opportunity to sign good quality championship players. We hope.
We hope, yeah. The fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. And Rob, we're going to be linked with every player probably over the course of the next couple of months. We've obviously had a couple of shouts in the chat as well. Tyrese Dolan's name is being bandied about, and I don't think that one's going to go away anytime soon. Looking at the squad at the moment, and again, we will have a bit of a deeper dive in terms of transfers and giving our kind of opinion on it. But Rob, is there anything at the moment that you feel that this team desperately needs?
I think every Derby fan would start with a striker, I'm guessing, is the kind of main pivotal point of what we need. I think it's nothing against Jerry Yates. I'm not even saying that I wouldn't. I know there's a bit of back and forth in our group chat today about him. I'm not sure that I would necessarily not offer him a contract, but I think we definitely need more strength in the forward positions, let's say, going into next season. The rest of it really depends on what happens with the rest of the squad. When you start going through it, you can make a case that many are leaving or many are staying, and it depends what Eustace can do and who he wants to select from what he's seen towards the end of the season to get us over there. But for me, yeah, a goal scorer, when you look at McGoldrick, for example, or someone of that ilk that can put those kind of numbers in, you know you've got a striker that's there to get the goals. I think that would be huge for us. And then it really does. I mean, we could have an all out now talking about who might. I mean, like, for example, let's just say Mendes Lang leaves. Then obviously, again, whether he's good enough, whether he's got the legs anymore, whether we want to go and strengthen that position, you could go through loads like that. Obviously, Clark Phillips, we just talked about earlier in the show, it could be needed a complete rebuild. Hopefully, I think, for example, with Clark and Phillips, I just do hope that he considers bringing them back in and we're able to get those ones over the line, because it just feels like some kind of cohesion and continuity would set us strong. We've finished well, and it feels like that would make sense. But obviously, we don't know all of the behind-the-scenes stuff that would need to happen to make those things happen. So, yeah, I think probably for now I'll swerve the question a little bit. But a striker for me, I just love seeing. That's where I was when I play. I love it. I love seeing us with a proper goal scorer up there, or two, even if I'm being greedy.
So, just like James Collins, you're a striker as well.
No,
yes,
God.
yeah.
Have I ended up on a podcast with two strikers, or two wannabe strikers?
Wannabe strikers, yeah. Well, definitely in my case is a wannabe striker. Cal, we got Leeds in the YouTube comments. We had Forest last week. Now we got Leeds. It's pretty impressive, the away fans in the comments, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think, like we said last week, the fact that we're doing what we're doing and everyone calls us irrelevant and that we're kind of doing our own thing, focus on your own little relegation battle, but yet you come and listen to a Derby County podcast on a Sunday evening.
Yeah, we hope you're enjoying it. We hope you're enjoying it. We're here for all fan bases. We're here.
Yeah,
for
we
all
are.
Fan
Yeah,
bases.
Yeah.
Callum, how will this season be remembered if you were just to put it on the back of a book? There's a book in 10 years' time. How would you sum up this season?
What, in a word or just in general?
Just in general. You've got to fill out the back of a book.
Back of it. Oh God. Right. So I would go a roller coaster of a season, because we're on a high. We were going up that roller coaster from League One and on the hype train, being back in the Championship after all the heartache that we had, and then it very quickly went down the roller coaster, going into a loop-de-loop, multiple loop-de-loops, and then we've now going back up on the next bit of the train on the track. So yeah, if I would use the analogy of a roller coaster.
Right. Am I buying a book on Derby County, or am I buying a book on Alton Towers?
Best-selling novel, that.
I don't know which one would be more entertaining, though, a 90-minute Derby County game or going to Alton Towers.
That's very true. It's very true. At least you don't have to queue up to get into to Derby. Look,
No.
Cal, no offense, but I'm not buying that book. Rob,
Fair
can
enough.
you do any better?
It's the back of a book thing that I think you've thrown us with. We feel like we've got to turn into authors and quite put on the spot. Yeah, I guess up and down season, I'll go with that one. It was bizarre because having been promoted, I've never felt the way I felt about a manager that had done so well for us going into the start of the season. It wasn't hatred. I really had a lot of respect for him, but I really didn't feel positive about the start of the season. I was kind of dreading it and thinking that it would finish in the way that I'd seen the football end last season, even though we got over the line. We started quite well, didn't we? We started well and got more points than I thought, and we were all slightly optimistic and baffled by the fact we were picking up points and beating Bristol City at home 4-1 and whatever else happened. But I think maybe the fears that we thought may happen came true, and we all started to hit a midwinter depression. And yeah, I think it's been great to see what's happened towards the back end of the season, and we'll leave it on that cliffhanger so that you buy the novel.
Yeah, you got to buy the next one to see what happens. Vic Singh has said chapter 1 is over. With staying up, chapter 2 begins next season. It's very true, and we're all excited for that chapter, Vic. But yeah, it's been a quite surreal season. We've gone from breaking records, bad records that have been around for years and years and years, to eventually doing it and staying up on the last day. Typical Derby County, but the future under John Eustace and his team looks really, really bright. And I think, as I speak as a podcast, we can't wait now to get back pre-season, to get some new players in the door, some new blood, and just see what John Eustace can do. Because as we've said, it's a case that if he'd have been around from day one, we'd have been finishing right up there and potentially having a trip to Wembley. And we can all dream about that again one day, can't we? But on behalf of the podcast, if you've listened all season, thank you so much. Thanks for everyone. We see every comment on YouTube. We see every comment on X as well. We really thank you for being involved and being a part of this community and taking your time to listen if you have got this far. As I said, we will be back. We'll be doing a season review next week. We'll also be putting in some predictions and transfers and just getting a little bit carried away ahead of Derby being in the Championship again. But it just leaves me to say, up the Rams. We're staying up. Goodbye from me.
Yeah, appreciate all of the support this season, podcast, club. It's been a very emotionally draining season, but it's over now. So let's all have a nice break. Say tune in next week, and long may it continue in the Vic Singh era.
And from a listener, more than probably a contributor to this show, huge thanks to you guys for what you do every week. I think it does help the fan base therapeutically, particularly after poor results. So thank you for all of the silent listeners that you can't hear, that don't come into the comments. And for the rest of you, yeah, we got over the line, guys. Let's look forward to next season. Over and out.
We will see you in the Championship next season.
Championship again, ole ole.